Well, here we are, and winter's icy grip is going to be tightening over the eastern half of the United States from north to south, and storm risks are rising too this weekend. Don't you like that, Joe? Winter's icy grip tightens over the eastern U.S.
I don't know.
I
It seems like one of those chokeholds that you see on pro wrestling.
That's correct. So we're going to get right to it tonight because we have a whole lot of things to talk about here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And of course, you can support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast should you choose to. We'd like you to choose to by doing your shopping on Amazon. Because when you do, when you use our referral link that's pinned to that's on the descriptor to this podcast, uh, you go to Amazon, buy your stuff. Amazon throws us some coin for sending you there. Doesn't cost you a penny out of your pocket. So if you're going to shop, might as well use our referral link. This way we can keep the show commercial free. And we appreciate very much those of you who have shopped our Amazon link. And Tempest by Weatherflow, the Tempest folks, one of our sponsors here. The revolutionary Tempest weather system is yours for the asking. Get it and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link for this on the top of the chat board. It's pinned there so you can stare at it for the whole show. And yes, and you can, of course, use the coupon code that we have. Link's also on the descriptor to this video, this podcast. But use the coupon code, Joe Rayo. What is the coupon code, and what will they get?
The coupon code, ladies and gentlemen, fitting well with the forecast that we're going to present to you this evening. The coupon code is Winter 2026. Use it in good health with anything that you may want to purchase at Tempest, and you will get, thanks to Tempest, 10% off.
Yeah.
So, where can you get a deal like that?
Well, you can't.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. All right. I just want to kind of say a couple of things right off the bat because everybody knows that as I like to call it, the Facebook cesspool is out of control and the social media cesspool in general is out of control. So if you're watching the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, we just want to kind of just just take a deep breath and calm down, okay? There is a ton there's a ton of uncertainty that exists with this, and not normally we usually do our focus for areas in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England. However, this is going to be potentially a big event for other areas like the Mid Atlantic states, like the South Atlantic states, the Deep South, the Lower Ohio and Tennessee Valley. So we're going to try to put some context and just get a sense of what is going on because that's where we are at this point. No one is going to tell you the answer to the question that you want, which is what is going to happen, when is it going to happen, and how much? Those three questions, actually, those three questions. You're not going to get them answered today, but we're going to get a good feel for what's going to be happening in terms of what's going on in the atmosphere. And as we move through this week, particularly when we get to Wednesday and beyond, then we can start maybe zeroing in on how this is all going to play out for all these various areas. And by the way, just a heads up, Dave Toleris, meteorologist Dave Toleris, think will be here tomorrow night. I say I think because it's always in the back of my mind that something's going to pop up that keeps him from getting here. But he's going to be here tomorrow night. And if things roll along and it does look like this is going to be something that's going to be really important, we're going to have probably add an extra show, at least one extra show on Friday, and we'll bring in some other forecasters on live. So there'll be, some exciting things going on here from the standpoint of what you'll be able to watch. But Mr. Rayo, I think there's a few things that we can say. I think we can say this for sure. A, it's very cold. B, to set up all of this, it's going to get really cold at the end of the week and into the weekend.
Yes, if you thought that you have experienced very cold weather, and indeed these next couple of days are going to be quite cold, you ain't seen nothing yet because the upcoming weekend is going to see by far the coldest weather we have seen so far this winter season. We're talking temperatures perhaps tomorrow in some spots not making it above 20, and that's pretty darn cold, I would admit. But when you compare it to what may be coming our way on Saturday and Sunday of this weekend, both of those days we may have a tough time getting much above 14 or 15 degrees. Very cold
Correct.
indeed.
And
And of
and
course,
that's
also,
and you're
of course,
and that and in other places like in the Ohio Valley, around the Great Lakes, and even down in the deep South, we're talking about some rather extreme Arctic cold that is good. That's going to happen regardless of whether there's snow and ice that's going to get involved.
that's true. But also, what makes it even wickeder, if you will be the wind chills, which tonight, Joe, on my Facebook forecast, I said wind chills to greet you tomorrow morning will be in the tingle digits.
Right. Very nice.
You may
Yes.
see temperatures, 3 or 4 or 5 above, and if you want to go even more extreme than that, some may even have sub-zero wind chills tomorrow morning. It's going to be a tough, tough morning to stand outside waiting for a bus or for a train. So make sure you're in layers tomorrow morning, bundle up. And then, interestingly, tomorrow night, not tonight, but tomorrow night, temperatures are going to be cold. Perhaps the frigid might be the word to use, but the winds won't be quite as extreme tomorrow night. Still, you may have temperatures tomorrow night, not a chill factor, but the actual ambient air temperature down in the single digits. And then we warm up, a brief thaw, if you will, with temps back near freezing on Wednesday, and maybe, just maybe, we might get close to 40 on Thursday. I'm eyeing Thursday, Joe, finally, after all of the events of the last week. And of course, I was away this past weekend, so I wasn't able to do much of anything. It was snowing over the weekend, too. But I think on Thursday, I'm finally eyeing that day before the big, big, big chill comes in of finally taking down the lights on the garage, the Christmas
Oh,
lights, the Christmas wreaths, everything.
still haven't
Uh,
done it.
well, I was thinking about doing it on Wednesday, but there's still going to be a bit of a breeze on Wednesday, and temps will be only near freezing, but maybe pushing near 40. I'll take advantage of that on Thursday, full advantage of that. And before, again, we see the bottom fall out of the thermometer Friday and on into the weekend.
All right, we're going to let's get started here because we've got a lot to cover. Welcome tonight to everybody on the chat board. Welcome to those of you who are lurking in the background or maybe seeing the show for the first time tonight. Welcome to the live version of the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. We normally are here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. But as I said earlier, if things play out according to what the models are showing, we're likely to add at least one show, if not two shows, for Friday and Saturday. So we'll let you know when we get to the middle of the week. When we've got some feel for exactly what is or isn't going to happen, we'll tell you probably on Wednesday. I think that may be a good day where we can make a reasonable guess out of this. So subscribe to my YouTube channel, turn your notifications on so you don't miss us. And of course, if you like the show, we always love it when we get to 100 likes. So in the meantime, when we take a look at what's going on across the U.S., we're seeing really not a whole heck of a lot. It's mostly about lake effect snows, and that's why you still see. Let me give this a refresh just in case. You're still seeing winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories in southwestern New York and north central New York because it just snows there every day, just every single day, and also in Michigan,
Even in
particularly.
July.
Yes, exactly. In western Michigan, where many areas have just been hammered with endless lake effect snows that have been going on, well, it continues to go on. So we have winter storm warnings there and advisories for the counties to the east, as well as on the Upper Peninsula. We've got several counties under winter storm warnings, and the light blue, I believe, is a cold weather advisory, and we also have winter weather advisories up for the mountains in West Virginia. And by the way, for those of you who are on tonight and you live in, say, places across the deep south, I'm going to get into it in a big way because me being in North Georgia, I'm particularly concerned about what kind of precip I'm going to get out of this because snow is one thing, ice is another. And I would much prefer just to deal with snow and not to deal with freezing rain. But got a ways to go yet. So here's our map for the night, the surface map, which has an Arctic cold front cutting across New York State and Pennsylvania as of 4 o'clock this afternoon. That's going to be moving through. And in comes the cold Arctic air that is to the west. High pressure is sitting down in Kansas. Temperatures in the single digit at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Temperatures barely up into the middle single digits for high temperatures in some places, like in northern Indiana and northwest Ohio. Single digits in teens up in Michigan. They're getting that wind off the warmer lake waters, kind of holding temperatures up a bit there. Below zero highs in Wisconsin, Minnesota, the Dakotas. And this isn't even as cold. The air mass that's coming late this week is even colder than this. This front's pushed all the way down into southern Alabama and Mississippi and back through Louisiana. Temperatures in the 40s and 50s today over much of those states, and that's going to be sinking downward as we go through the overnight. And here's a satellite loop tonight. Again, not much storminess going on, not really too much in the way of precip, just these Arctic fronts coming from Canada, dropping southward, and storms out in the Pacific are well offshore. So the weather in the west is actually unusually quiet. And here's the radar tonight, which has got very little except for what's happening in upstate New York with the lake effect continuing. See the bands of heavy snow coming into off the shores of Lake Erie, along and south of I-90, and also in north central New York, you're getting bands of snow going into areas north of Syracuse. And we've had some snow squalls earlier in central and western Pennsylvania, but those have actually weakened, although we do have some bands of snow moving through parts of south central New York State around Binghamton and pushing eastward into the Catskills. Now, WPC's precipitation forecast at this moment, so this takes us through next Tuesday. The only event really that we have is what's setting up for the end of the week. So in the Northeast, they're only showing a tenth to a quarter of an inch and a quarter to a half an inch in New Jersey. Now, remember, if we're going to be in bitter cold air and we get a quarter of an inch of liquid, and we're talking about temperatures down in the low and mid teens and it's snowing, you're going to have snow ratios that are going to be really off the wall. So a quarter of an inch of liquid could produce 4 or 5 fluffy inches in a heartbeat. So, but they're giving a tenth to a quarter. Southernmost New Jersey is where you start to get into the half inch. And then we've got some heavy precip amounts across southern Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, particularly North Georgia, through Tennessee, back through Arkansas, into Texas, Louisiana. And a lot of this area is going to be in that cold air that is going to be coming down. And, here, take a look at this next high, Joe. This is the Arctic front after Thursday's your pick of the week for eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, and actually it'll probably be okay temperature-wise even in the deep south. This next high coming down is absolutely loaded with cold air. I mean, the cold air is going to sink, the low-level cold air is going to sink all the way down into the deep south. And of course, here in the Northeast and northern mid-Atlantic states, you're going to notice it on thermometers at the end of the week and going into the weekend for sure.
No question about it. And I'd like to show right now what the folks over at the Climate Prediction Center are forecasting, because these are things that you don't often see from the CPC. First of all, I want to show you the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. Hold on here for just a moment. There you go. Obviously, the east is cold, the west is warm, but I want to close in specifically on the northeast and the mid-Atlantic area. This zone that you see, this very deep shade of blue that encompasses most of New York State, all of central and southern New England, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, Virginia, Kentucky, a sliver of southern and eastern Indiana, down to Tennessee and the north half of North Carolina. This zone right here is 90 to 100% probability of below normal temperatures. 90 to 100%. This temperature map or outlook is valid from the 25th through the 29th of this month. So that is valid from this coming Sunday all the way to a week from this Thursday. So once we get into this polar plunge, if you will, once this wave of very cold air, which will arrive here this weekend, gets settled and established, it does not look like it's going to be going anywhere for much of next week. So next week looks to be probably about as cold a weather pattern that we have seen in a good long time around here. And just also to emphasize the point a little bit, I want to show you the risk of hazardous temperatures. Hazardous temperatures, in other words, temperatures that are way, way below the norm. And here we see a high risk, not a moderate risk, not a slight risk, but a high risk of hazardous temperatures, dangerously cold temperatures. That would be for the 27th through the 29th. That'll be for a week from tomorrow through a week from Thursday, the 27th to 29th of January, covering the lower Great Lakes, Ohio, Indiana, most of Illinois, all of Kentucky. Are you listening, Mrs. Hutch? Also, western sections of Virginia and most of West Virginia, the west half of Pennsylvania, and western New York. High risk of dangerously cold temperatures next week. And I would assume, Joe, that we're talking about near or possibly record-breaking cold for that area of the country. Not to say also that surrounding that zone, we have an area of moderate risk of hazardous temperatures, hazardously cold temperatures, which cover most of the rest of the Great Lakes, down into the southeastern states, the mid-Atlantic, New York, and most of central and southern New England. And then there's just a slight risk in this zone here, right through the nation's midsection. So cold weather is certainly going to be with us as we move through the next week to 10 days here in the eastern part of the country.
Did they do anything with respect to storm risk, or maybe because now it's in the short range, they're not?
No, they did not have anything. In fact, let me bring back the share capability again. I'll show you what they have. Those are risks of hazardous temperatures. As far as precipitation is concerned, zilch, except for way out in the Pacific Northwest, in
Right,
parts of Washington
just to be
State.
fair, though, that map starts January 27th to February 2nd. So
Correct.
it's outside, yeah. So it's because it's in the longer range of WPC. You're not going to see it on there.
Correct.
Okay.
And after from the 27th onward, no hazards posted for heavy snow. And as far as wind is concerned, the only place would be here in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. If we do get a big storm this weekend, whatever it may be for you, snow, ice, or whatever, that storm would probably be lurking somewhere off of the coast out in the Atlantic, and we'd probably be caught in a tight pressure gradient behind it, which is probably why they have this region here in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic with a slight risk of hazardous wind conditions. So that would be in for the 27th to the 30th. That would be for, again, that's like the middle and latter part of next week.
All right. Sounds like a plan. All right. I'm gonna do a little upper air here. Before we do that, Joe, if you could just acknowledge the super chats tonight, and there was something else. Anyway, if you could acknowledge the super chats, that would be great. Oh, and yes, we have 100 likes already, so you can ring the bell.
Oh, okay. Well, first things first. We did have a super chat hit but I can't see it anymore. It was near the beginning of the show.
Okay, so let's see. I
We
can see it. It was Jeff Yinkst hitting the tip jar. Thank you very much, Jeff. Uh, and yes, we're all sick of the Facebook hype. And
we
you
also
know,
have Birder Lady. Birder
yes.
Lady has hit the tip jar, and she's asking me, Aurora, why do we have a KP of 9 and a G4 storm, and the oval is up north? Magnetic cloud orientation. Can you talk about that just a bit? And I mentioned to Joe before the show began when he said you're going to talk about the aurora, but a lot of times people just look at these numbers, the planetary K index, which is at the top of the scale right now, G4, that's like a Saffir-Simpson 4 for hurricanes, for geomagnetic storms, that's a 4 on a 0 to 5 scale. And yet, I was out just a little while ago with the dog, looked up, didn't see absolutely anything. These would suggest that the sky should be filled with aurora, and we don't. But the situation is such that sometimes you have a case where the BZ. This is how the how can I describe this? The doorway, so to speak, is open. If it's open in a northward component, you're not going to see very much, even with these high numbers. The component needs to be oriented more toward the south for the solar winds to blow and to allow for aurora to appear. We apparently don't have that now, but if we continue to see this through the overnight, and if we can somehow get the orientation to move from north to south, then we would have a situation that would be favorable. A crack in the door, so to speak, would open up and allow for all of this material to interact with the north and south magnetic poles and create auroral activity. I've on you talk about snow, Joe. Social media this afternoon and this evening, so many different social media sites saying big aurora tonight. Look at the colors. Look at the But from experience, I know that sometimes this is not an absolute. Sometimes you can get what really looks like a great chance for an aurora, and you don't get anything. Now we have had a couple of great aurora days last year in May and October. We don't have anything yet, but the potential is there for auroral activity. You'll just have to continue to constantly monitor the sky, check the sky during the overnight, especially toward the north, and you might see an outbreak of auroral activity. Well, the most memorable aurora I could tell you, just to give you an idea, was in 1989. My wife and I, Ron and I, we were woken up. Phone rang at 1 o'clock in the morning, and an acquaintance of mine said that he thought, on the northern lights from Boonton, New Jersey, which is very heavily light polluted, I might add. But he said, I see a strange green strip down near the horizon. And he couldn't quite say for certain. He said, it looks like an aurora, smells like an aurora, but he's not sure if it's an aurora. And so after the phone call, Renan and I were looking out the window toward the north. We're seeing the same kind of green haze, no big deal, almost underwhelming, if you will. And I called a friend in Merrick, out on Long Island, to tell him about this. And all of a sudden, Renata starts screaming from the bedroom where we were watching the northern part of our window was again facing north. And it was like suddenly, all of a sudden, an explosion of green and blue, aquamarine, if you will, suddenly rising out like a mushroom cloud out of the northern part of the sky. And when we ran outside, not only were we seeing aurora in the north, but also pulsating red. This all happened literally in a matter of a minute or two. So this is what happens with aurora sometimes. They're very quiet. They don't do much of anything. They don't, you say to yourself, where is it? What's happening? And then all of a sudden, like you could snap your fingers and a tremendous display suddenly fires up. That is what we may have here tonight. You're just going to have to keep going outside periodically, look up, watch, and see whether or not there will be any kind of activity visible in our sky tonight.
All right. Okay, let's on to the upper air, and we'll take a look. I've already just kind of highlighted a few things that I wanted to talk about here. The B that I have up at the top is for block. There's a polar vortex in Hudson Bay. There's another upper low that's sitting northeast of Newfoundland, not quite in the 50-50 low position, but not far from it. Um, Notice in the Pacific, we have weather systems, and it's not like we have those, we have mostly above normal pressures here in the Pacific, which is leading to a negative East Pacific oscillation signal. And as you know, I love for winter weather lovers, you got to love it minus EPO. And I've said that many times. Give me a negative EPO, and I'll take my chances with everything else. And we have both the block and we have the negative EPO. But the more important thing in the Pacific is the fact that you see everything out here is fractured. It's not like we have this massive west to east fire hose from Japan to Los Angeles, from Tokyo to Los Angeles, which we've had years where that's been the case. Instead, we have a lot of storminess sitting out there in different places, and energy that's going to be off the coast of California on Wednesday is going to get ejected eastward into the flow. All of this happening where we have this cross polar flow going on. So the air from the Arctic is coming straight down into the United States and spreading down pretty far to the south. Now, as we move along, the vortex in Hudson Bay actually drops down toward Lake Superior, just sort of pivots around, and that whole jet just swings on through. And some of that California energy gets ejected eastward, and a piece of that is going to wind up getting underneath this jet. Now, the flow along the East Coast is maybe, I'll be generous and call it west southwest. It's probably somewhere between west southwest and west. So and then there's got this arm that's pivoting around. You're going to want that flow if you're a snow lover and you're up in the Northeast. You're going to want that flow to back a little bit, okay? You don't want to back too much, because then you're going to wind up, with a low that goes up the Appalachians, and that's not going to happen with a setup like this. But you want the flow to back up just enough so that you can bring the precip up north of New York City and then up toward Boston and Albany. Which sometimes when we've had situations like this in the past, the models try to keep things pretty flat, and there have been a number of instances where we've seen systems where the models show the northern edge of snow, say at New York City, and it winds up being up in Albany at the end of the day. So bear that in mind, that's one of the variables here that we're going to have to focus on when we get to the weekend. And of course, there's going to be Arctic air behind this, and that's going to get left over as we go into next week. And you can see the troughing here in the east next week is just brutal. I mean, there's just one arm after another coming down with cold air. But first things first is what we have to deal with respect to this upcoming weather system. And I'm going to use the pivotal weather maps because they're big. So everybody, if you're watching from various regions, you can kind of see. And I'm using the European model with this. So we're starting off. What you're seeing right now is 1 a.m. Tuesday morning. Okay, and I'm just gonna roll it along, and you'll notice this cold high goes out, and here comes the Arctic front, the next Arctic front dropping down as we move into Wednesday and then into Thursday. But the cold air really arrives. The Arctic front's going to kind of ease its way through here during the day Thursday. You probably won't notice it too much, but then the colder air starts coming in Friday, and here comes this big high. I mean, it's a 1051 high here, sitting. What is that, Saskatchewan or Alberta?
That is actually, it looks like
Manitoba.
Where the highest centered.
Yeah.
Okay, I think no, that would be Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan.
To the left is Alberta, and to the right is Manitoba.
Gotcha. Okay. So here's your big high, and it just spreads out. Now, the sheer weight of the density of the cold air is going to, at least in the areas in the deep south, you're going to have low-level cold air that's going to get much further south than the magical 540 line. Okay, and I'll hide this right here, 540. Okay, normally we use that 540, 546 as your rain snow line. but you're going to see the cold air penetrate at low levels further south than those two lines that I've just indicated. And I mentioned this because this is going to open the door to a potential freezing rain problem and a potential for maybe a big freezing rain problem if this materializes. And it's all overrunning here. I mean, there's not much of a low. There's some lower pressures down in South Texas, but this is basically warm air from the Gulf of America and coming off the southeast coast of the United States, overrunning all this Arctic air. And the orange area that you see across North Texas, northern Louisiana, southern Arkansas, and into Mississippi, and northern Alabama, that's freezing rain. And to the north, in all that blue, particularly the darker blue, is accumulating snow. And as we move into Friday night and Saturday, we see this large area of freezing rain from North Carolina, southern portions of North Carolina, virtually all of South Carolina, the northern half of Georgia, northern Alabama, back through Mississippi, down through northern Louisiana and northeast Texas. And then you get up into Tennessee, and you see the darker blues start to show up just north of the Tennessee-Georgia border, Tennessee-Alabama border. You start to turn over to heavy snow, and that spreads into North Carolina and Virginia. Now, the European only goes out, I'm using the in-between run, at 144 hours, which would be Sunday afternoon, midday. The light blue snow gets up to about New York City. The darker blue snows in southern New Jersey. And what's happening is you get a wave. There is a wave that you see that low there in the Florida Panhandle. There's also a warm front that's going to set up right off the Carolina coast, and you're going to get a warm frontal redevelopment. A wave is going to develop on that warm front, and then that becomes the main center here and goes to the northeast. And the thing is, Joe, in a situation like this, it really doesn't matter too much. It's not like we're looking at a storm where the pressure is going to go from 1,010 millibars to 980. Okay, this is really all about a frontal boundary with a slowly intensifying wave that moves along it, and a ton of overrunning into what is bitter cold Arctic air. And you don't need much to squeeze out precipitation when you're looking at temperatures that are in the single digits and teens, and you got this moisture coming into it. I mean, snow will just break out everywhere. And the bigger question to me down the road is going to be, how far north is this all going to get? And that to me is the writing question.
The thing about the fact it's going to be so cold over this weekend, one of the things that the models certainly are not going to show this far out, and even closer in, is that when you got cold weather like this, you've heard the old saying, it's too cold to snow. Sometimes the models will show you snow over a specific area, and yet it's not snowing because of Virga. The air is just so cold and so dry that it evaporates before reaching the ground. Also, sometimes, especially when the high is straight to the north of the low center, and we don't have that here. The center of the high, as you can see on Joe's map, is located or positioned over in western Wisconsin. Meanwhile, the low itself is near the Outer Banks of North Carolina. But sometimes when you have the high directly north of the low, you have a sharp cutoff of heavy snow. You can get, and we've seen this more than a few times over the last 20, 30, 40 years, where one area gets. Well, I'll give you an example. The snowstorm of January 22nd, 23rd, 2016, which dumped 27 plus inches of snow on New York City. I live 50 miles north of New York City. I didn't get 27 inches. I got 11 inches. And meanwhile, to the north of me, maybe about 10 miles north of where I live, I remember distinctly a weather observer saying, I don't know why everybody's making such a big fuss about. I barely have enough snow to cover the grass in front of my house. These are the games that you have to worry about when you're trying to predict snow, heavy snow, where the snow is going to be. And again, it's too far. I mean, we're still like 6 days in advance.
Right.
A lot of things are going to happen between now and Sunday to help us better define the areas or the regions where the snow is going to accumulate to a significant degree, and where the snow may be very light, and where there may not be any snow at all. And Joe, we often said the trend is your friend. The only trend I see so far is that many of the models have been saying, "Oh, this is going to be a near miss for New York." Now they're not saying that anymore. They're saying that we're going to get something the equivalent of a glancing blow, and
Well,
that
and
most
the
of the
AI,
storm is going to stay the south.
we also need to pay attention to the AI models because they did do really well this weekend, uh, and
Exactly.
and they're more they've picked up on this long before the operationals did. The operationals were sort of hinting around. The other thing to mention too, I'm going to switch to the GFS because the GFS has a more suppressed solution, at least for now, even though that too, the operational GFS has also been inching northward with every run. But I want to just show what the implications are with respect to the south. But it should be noted that when you have big events, usually all the models pick up on it around the same time, and we do have that right now.
Right.
We have the Canadian. The UCMET, which used to be really a useful model, and I stopped using it because it got really squirrely. The UCMET is showing the same thing. The Canadian, the UCMET, the icon's got it. It's a little more suppressed, but the icon has it. The GFS has it. The European has it. The AIs all have it. So they're all on the same page here. When you look at it being 6 days out and you look at all the models, it's kind of remarkable that they all do have it playing out the same way in a general sense. But it's the fine tuning of the details, as you said, which you're not going to really know until we get there. But the GFS, which has actually shows a little bit more suppression than the other models, is going to be really important with how it plays out in the south because with a more suppressed, colder look, instead of a big freezing, that big freezing rain area that the European had, instead it has snow over northern Alabama, and I would prefer this, frankly. Uh, northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, northern Georgia, into northern portions of South Carolina, into North Carolina. It's got a much narrower area of freezing rain, albeit an impressive amount of sleet and freezing rain that actually goes all the way back down into central Texas, and even eventually getting down to Houston uh, and, uh, and Lake Charles in Louisiana. But again, you see the suppressed look on this was the 12Z GFS. I'll go to the 18Z because the 18Z was actually further north. But you can see on the 12Z on the 18Z GFS that the freezing rain it's more of a snow than a freezing rain factor in areas in the deep south. And then you see the GFS does lift up snow up to about New York City or just north of New York City, which it's now done this for the first time in over the last 5 or 6 runs. This is the first one that's actually shows snow getting that far north. So we know something's going to be there. We know something is going to try to happen, but it's all in the details, and the actual specifics are not known. And by the way, I do want to point out. I want to just show Joe the 2 meter temperatures because these are going to be really important over the weekend, depending on what happens in terms of precip and all the rest of it. And I'm going to go to the regional. Let's go to the regional. Uh, I'll use the
And
Northeast.
by the way, I think you bring up a good point that when there is a major storm, a significant storm, that all the models pick up on it far, far in advance of what they normally would with just a regular, run of the mill storm. And I say this because I remember the middle of last week, I may have mentioned this, that our mutual friend Pete Bergman is going to take a trip. Pete is a meteorologist, and he too, like Joe and I, alumnus of City College in New York. And Pete, I think, his niece, or might be his granddaughter, I'm not sure, she's going to graduate and become a pharmacist. And he is going to be there at the ceremony in Pittsburgh on, I think, January 25th or 26th. And he's telling me, he says he's going to drive from where he is out in Long Island all the way out to Pittsburgh. And at the same time, he's saying, what the heck are the models saying that there's going to be some kind of a massive winter storm? Now, this was like in the middle of last week. So let's say about the 14th. From the 14th or the 15th of January, right on straight through now and continuing, obviously, in the days to come, the models were saying that there was going to be a significant or possible major winter storm somewhere in the eastern part of the country. And he says, oh, please keep it south. That's the last thing I need, is to have to deal with a storm system of that. So you're right. I mean, when there is the potential for a really major storm, every one of the models in their own numerical way pick up on it well in advance.
And they've been consistent. They haven't really lost it. If they've just kind of got onto it, and it's still there. You look at any of the big events, the blizzard in '96, a few other ones around the down in the last number of years. It's always been the case.
The superstorm of March of '93 showed up on the models 10 days before.
Yep. And there were fewer models then. So
yes.
This is the European. These are the 2-meter temperatures, and sometimes, to be fair, the European does overdo it. On the cold side, but it has lows. Actually, has some double-digit below zero lows in upstate New York. It's got a low of 3 at White Plains, 4 in New York City, 5 in Philadelphia, 5 and 6 for Washington and Baltimore, respectively. Mid-teens down into Southern Virginia. And then I want to just go further south, because all this Arctic air is going to be so important. I'm going to go further south so we can take a look at down in the Mid-Atlantic states and south and the Deep South. Saturday morning, the freezing line is going to be running just north of Atlanta, but cutting across South Carolina and back through northern Alabama, north of Birmingham. And we're looking at temperatures in the 20s. When I was looking at the temperature profiles in a lot of these places, once it starts precipitating, the temperatures actually fall during the day, because as the wave develops, you got all this cold air that's up into northern Tennessee and up in through Kentucky, single digits and teens. So all that cold air is going to get drained southward into the Deep South as the day wears on. It's not going to be a case of where warmer air comes up from the south and pushes that up northward, because we're taking a low that's going from the Florida Panhandle and redeveloping off the South and North Carolina coast. And once that second wave develops, all this cold air that you see up in Kentucky and Indiana and Ohio, all of that gets drained southward. So that's why it's so important for the folks in the Deep South with respect to having to sort of straddle this very delicate balance with regards to temperatures. And then, of course, the temperatures aloft are going to be really important too, as opposed to whether it's snow or it's going to be freezing rain. So, as I said, a lot going on. And just a quick mention in the long ranges, I really don't want to spend, when you got, my general rule is, you look at you look at what's in front of you as far as storms are concerned. You don't go beyond that, because, you need all your focus on this. All I will say is that the next 2 weeks are going to be very interesting in many respects. We mentioned the other day that after around the 19th or 20th, things were going to get very active, considering where we are with all the teleconnections and everything else, and it seems to be playing out in that fashion. So I think we should play Briller Jeopardy now.
Okay.
And I have it tonight.
Yes.
So, here we go. So we're doing Honeymooners. We're still doing Honeymooners. Okay.
Before we get into this.
Yes. 200.
That's for the fact that we've gone over 100 likes again tonight.
I thought you did the bell before for 100.
I didn't ring the bell at all so far.
Really?
Really?
I
We
thought
have
I
300.
remember saying to you we got 100 likes. I thought you
Yes,
rang the bell.
and I was in the midst of doing some explanation of the aurora, and I said first things first, but I never did get around to ringing the bell, so I've just rung the
Oh,
bell
all
now.
right.
By the way, my counter says we have 293 people watching, 162 likes. Will this be the night maybe that we approach 200? We'll see.
Well, it'd be nice if we got 200 likes. We're actually up to 332 viewers, which is really nice. And probably we'll get busier as the week goes on. Okay, it's the Honeymooners tonight. Thanks to Scott Briller. We call him the chairman here. Um, so the Honeymooners, Briller, Jeopardy. What was Alice's pet name for Ralph back in the day? I know you know the answer to this, Joe.
I'm not gonna say because yes, Ruben
Um,
Fairchild. We do watch shows from 1980 onward, but this is a classic
right.
show. So
Mark Franz, 78 Yanks. Buttercup is the correct. Well, it's almost the correct answer.
yes,
It's
it's not
almost the
the
correct answer. You're missing one little thing. Yes, thanks, Mark Franz. Old Buttercup. Old Buttercup.
used to be a little cup of butter. Now you're a whole tub of lard.
Audrey Meadows was almost rejected by Jackie Gleason to star as Alice. Why? Do you know why, Joe?
Yes,
Okay, just checking. Audrey Meadows was almost rejected to play Alice. Um,
Joseph Lopresti got it.
well, she was too pretty, but she was also, I mean, to the point where he couldn't see her as like a ragged woman
Right,
in frumpy clothes.
right.
Okay.
And
Um,
you know how she remedied the situation and got the job as Alice.
yeah, she
She
came in.
hired she hired a photographer to come in and take a picture or pictures of her right after she got out of bed.
Yes, exactly.
And
Uh,
when Gleason got the pictures of her looking like that, now this is Jackie Gleason, folks. I'm not saying it. I'm just quoting Jackie Gleason. He said, "quote Boy, that sure is a dowdy looking broad," and from that picture hired her. Boom, right on the spot.
hey, what was the Alice's sister's name? Alice's sister's name.
Come on,
Anybody?
somebody out
Oh,
there should.
Harold Olson. Yes, Agnes. Rich
Agnes.
Rothvansky. Agnes. Jimmy Z. Agnes. Mr. TRWS. Lucy is another show. Frank Scalera. Agnes. Yes. Um, next. What was Trixie Norton's pre-marriage job? What did she do before she got married?
This may actually be an explanation that may or may not be true.
And Scott Briller just hit the tip jar. Thank you, Scott. Most appreciated. You can't remember?
I can't remember. I know. I think I know what it was.
Um, computer. Uh, Jimmy Z says computer programmer. Harold Olson and Christina Pedia, a secretary. They didn't have computers then, really. It was a key punch operator, maybe, but not a computer programmer. Um, a
The
riveter.
name, her name is a clue to what she used to do.
Yes. Rich Rothmansky, yeah, I will accept that. She was a dancer. Can you guess what kind of dancer? What kind of dancer?
I don't know if she was a dancer.
Well, it said that she worked. Okay. All right. So the answer Scott has is she was a burlesque dancer. So if the name Trixie probably kind of
Well,
matches that.
the term she turned tricks. Let's put it that way.
Oh,
Christopedia is closer to the truth, believe it or not. But
yeah. Marky D said burlesque. Let's just leave it at that.
yes,
We don't want to soil, Trixie Norton. Um, what was Ralph's favorite dessert?
his favorite dessert.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, well, I know what his favorite food was, or his favorite appetizer was. Everybody's saying pudding.
Pudding.
Pudding, bread pudding, chocolate cake, chocolate cake. I don't remember an episode where it specifically mentioned what his favorite food is. I know there was one episode, it was the arterial monochromia episode, where he finished off, he was gobbling down blueberry pie.
Well, Infomac247 got it. It's chocolate. Well, close enough. Chocolate fudge cake.
Chocolate fudge
Chocolate
cake,
fudge
okay.
cake. And now I'm going to correct this because I think he's got it's an incorrect answer. What actor won 5 Emmys for their role on the show? Well, the show only ran one season, so she couldn't have won. They couldn't have won 5 Emmys if a show only runs one season. In total, this actor has had five um, 5 nominations and one win, which was for the Honeymooners. Any guess? I mean, there's only four to pick one. It's not Jackie Gleason.
Jackie Gleason never won an Emmy in his life, believe it or
No.
not.
Uh, DJ Fenga got it. It's actually Audrey Meadows, and so did Mark Franciner Senior. She won a best an Emmy for her role as Alice, but just one. Uh, and she's had 3 or 4 other nominations for other shows, but only one Emmy win. So there you have it.
There
All
you have
right,
it.
I think we did okay here. So coming up on 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and the show will be on Spotify in case you want to watch it later, or you tuned in late and you want to watch it from the beginning, or you could watch it here on YouTube. But
Now we have
we're on Spotify.
196. We have 196 likes.
All right, so we just need 4 more likes. Can we get four
Would you
more?
please hit the like button
So anyway,
so
we've
we can make
got
it to 200?
we have uh, Dave Towers is going to be here tomorrow, so we'll get his opinion on all of this, I'm sure, and then we'll see where this goes, and maybe we'll be setting up for a special show on Friday. 200 likes.
There you go.
Very good. Good. We're ending on a good note. So everybody have a great night. Thanks for being here. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you're new to the channel, new to the show, we're glad that you joined us. And if you like the show, um, subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the like button. And we'll see you tomorrow, 7:35. Good
Good
night.
night.